Hi, everybody. So I just wanted to give a response to some of the stuff I saw on the rough draft discussion board for Module 1, give you a couple of pointers as you revise Essay 1. Let me just talk about one thing really quick. Remember, there was this intro material. I know you looked at this like the first 1 or 2 days, but I think it's helpful to go back and look at it again. I'll leave it up throughout the semester, but remember down here at the bottom, I wanted you guys to look at a sample essay. And so on this page, down here at the bottom, here's the sample essay, and up here at the top, I've kind of given some basic ideas about what to look for when we read each other's essays, and also what I'll be looking at when I grade your essays. And it's basically the same stuff that's in the grading rubric. I'll talk about one element really quick, the use of support. And remember when I talked about the use of support also in the PowerPoint presentation for Module 1, I talked about how try to have these three elements working together, have a claim, what is your main idea in this particular section of your essay? Give at least one piece of support, and support has to be some sort of specific detail, and then interpret the detail, comment on the support, what does it mean, what is the lesson, how and why does it back up or illustrate the point that you're trying to make in this part of your essay. And I often call this a support sandwich, right? I talked a bit about it right there. I call it a support sandwich. And you can see the reason I call it the support sandwich is because right here in the middle, there's the support, and then you've got your ideas before and after it. So, you're telling us what you want to communicate, the main idea of this particular section of the essay right there in the beginning. And then after the support, you've got your interpretation or commentary on the support. What does it mean, and how does it back up the main idea you're talking about in this part of the essay? So you can see why it's a sandwich, right? You've got your ideas before and after the support that's in the middle, all right? So I often refer to the main idea or the claim and the interpretation or the commentary afterwards as the bread. And then I like to talk about the support in the middle as the meat and cheese. Sorry, I don't know if you think it's a silly metaphor or if I'm making you hungry, but I like to call it a sandwich. So, okay, so let's look at a couple of essays. And how about Cameron Smith? We'll just look at one section of your essay. So in the beginning, my uncle died when I was young. I barely knew him, but I met him a couple of times before he was hospitalized. It didn't take long for my aunt to remarry to an Egyptian man and convert to Islam. My uncle Ashraf taught me a lot about Islam and Egypt. He was very open to my questions about Egypt and life there. Not that I had any good questions at first since I was a child. My aunt adjusted her lifestyle to his pretty fast. Okay, so we're getting a lot of specific detail. He goes on talking about it was nothing like the prayers I did in church. After watching them pray for the first time, I asked if it was okay to come along with them to their mosque. And Ashraf, I'm sorry if I'm screwing up the name, Ashraf loved the idea. When I got there, I wasn't expecting to be required to take my shoes off. Okay, so you see we get a lot of detail. And then at the very end here, the last sentence, it taught me at a very young age of the importance of religious freedom and expression. So if we go back to the support sandwich, what we have in this section is a lot of pretty good support, a lot of specific detail, okay? And then we do get a little bit of a piece of bread at the end, one thin piece of bread. So we get a big pile of meat and cheese, and some pretty good meat and cheese, and then a small slice of bread at the end. I think that the slice of bread is pretty good. When we get to the end, we see the interpretation of what this detail means, that there's a lesson there about religious freedom. And so that is a pretty good piece of bread, but I think the bottom piece of bread could be a little bit thicker. Spend another sentence or two expanding on that lesson. And just to contrast that, let's look at another one really quick. Brianna Sandoval. So, okay, so let's go into a section that she wrote. Everyday companies thrive to make people feel comfortable coming to work. They constantly ask their workers to transfer and explore other buildings, not just grow within the company, to work with different individuals and learn different techniques in the same company. This can have a positive reaction on the workers, seeing people coming from different backgrounds. So I chose these two essays because they kind of illustrate some things that I've been seeing. You notice with, whoops, I lost it. Where is it? Here we go. With Cameron's essay, we get a lot of specific detail, pretty good specific detail. And then we get a little bit of bread, but it's kind of thin at the very end. If we look at Brianna's essay, the things that I was reading in Brianna's essay, every day companies do this, people tend to do that. This tends to have a positive reaction. You notice Brianna is giving us a lot of comments about things in general. And if we keep on going down, they are our leaders. Again, very general. It gives us hope when we see all the different backgrounds they come from, that everyone can move up a position. And it's kind of like right here, right there. You see where I put that X. This is where we need a sentence that says, for instance, one particular time I was working somewhere and this is what happened on one particular day, or this is a person I was working with, or we need a specific detail that illustrates the more general comments that she's making. So, and here when we get to this sentence, managers with different personal backgrounds such as schooling can motivate us as well. You see how if I go back to the sample essay, that sentence I feel like is a pretty good top piece of bread. It feels like this sentence right here, managers with different personal backgrounds such as schooling can motivate us as well. That feels like the beginning of a new paragraph, a new section. And so in other words, I feel like with Brianna's essay, we tend to have claims and interpretations of things, lots of comments about things in general. It's kind of like we have stacks of bread on top of each other, but we're kind of missing the meat and cheese in the middle, okay? And so, like I said, with this X right here, I feel like this is one spot in Brianna's essay. Did I screw up your name? No, Brianna, okay. This is one spot in Brianna's essay where I think there should be a couple of sentences starting off with, for instance, one particular thing I experienced. And then at the end of that, after a couple of sentences, try to give us the lesson. What this demonstrates is the reason this backs up what I'm saying is because, and then after you finish that bottom piece of bread, then move on to this sentence, which should be the beginning of a new section, right? I feel like this sentence, managers with different personal backgrounds, such as schooling, can motivate us as well. I feel like that's the top piece of bread of a new sandwich that's starting, okay? So again, looking back at Cameron's, you notice that there's my uncle Ashraf, my aunt. This is what the experience was like living with them. This is what it was like when they took me to the mosque, right? We get lots of really good meat and cheese, but we need more bread, okay? Try to make it clear to us in the beginning what you want this, the main idea of this section to be, like right there before you, like one sentence before you say, my uncle died when I was young, right? We need a top piece of bread telling us what you want the main idea of this section to be. And then at the end, Cameron, you start giving us a pretty good bottom piece of bread, but it's still a little thin. Okay, so anyways, I was looking at some of the rough drafts and I thought, these two essays kind of nicely illustrate some of the things I was seeing in a lot of the rough drafts. When you're using, let's see if I can get back to the sample essay stuff. When you're thinking about using support, all right, try to do the support sandwich in every section of your essay. I understand that might feel kind of robotic in the beginning, okay, but try to do these 3 steps. Give us a claim, meaning, what do you want the main idea of this section to be? And then give us specific detail. a specific event that happened, description of a particular person, um, and then go on. When you finish giving us the detail, give us interpretation. This means that the lesson that I learned was the reason this is important is because the reason this backs up or illustrates the point I'm trying to make is that, okay? So sometimes what I often see people doing in lots of their essays is they'll have like pieces of bread, but they're lacking the meat and cheese in the middle. Okay, if you feel like you're writing in your essay lots of sentences that are referring to things in very general terms, people tend to do this. This is this is the way the world usually is. This is a lesson about the way things are. You probably have lots of pieces of bread and you're missing the meat and cheese in the middle. If, on the other hand, you're giving lots of detail about this is what this person is like, and this is what this other person is like, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, you're kind of giving a narrative, then you probably have a lot of meat and cheese, but you're missing the pieces of bread. Okay, so that's something that I feel is recurring, right? That I see in lots of essays. Lots of bread without the meat and cheese, or lots of meat and cheese without the bread. So try to make those things work nicely together. Try to focus on doing these 3 steps in each section of your essay. And like I said, in the beginning, it's going to feel very robotic, but try to have these 3 steps in each section of your essay. Okay, so think about that as you are revising essay 1, and I'll have module 2 up soon enough.